Good
for
evening, everyone.
those.
Christina?
Evening. Yes. I was just going to make a quick announcement. Oh, guess what? Jaira's joining. Never mind.
Okay, thank you.
If anyone's streaming on YouTube, we're running just a little bit behind. We'll start shortly.
Hello, thanks Christina for that. You guys can allow me the grace of a couple of minutes just to not get scattered. I just ran from work, so give me a couple minutes and I'll be right back.
Plenty of grace to go around, plenty.
Thank you.
Hi, Tyrone, how are you? If you were speaking to us,
Sorry. Hi.
okay, I just wanted to make sure that your audio was working. Perfect.
I muted. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
All right, thank you for everyone for your patience. I literally just ran from a community office hour, so pardon my tardiness. I don't like being late to my own meetings or any meetings at that. So anyway, let's get started. As always, I like to start off the meeting with just a moment of reflection. Considering that I'm scattered and all over the place, I would like to hear from everyone, what did you do for yourself today for self-care? How did you take care of yourself today? For me, I drank water, lots of water. It may seem like a simple thing, but sometimes when I get busy, I don't take care of myself, right? And sometimes that involves water, and I made sure today I drank water. So that's me reminding myself that I need to slow down and take care of myself. Let's go around, and we'll keep it brief because I know we have a packed agenda today. I'm going to popcorn it to Viviana.
Hey, I'm glad you drank your water. Good, great. For me, and I don't want to speak for the team, but I think one of the good things that we did for self-care today was share a little walk around noon. We went for a little walk and we came back and it was great to feel the sunshine. So, and I'll popcorn it to Judith.
I tried to find instances where I could laugh out loud and find a little humor in everything.
You want to popcorn it off to someone?
I'll do Jesse.
Everyone, good evening. I was mindful and ate a salad for lunch today, and that felt good. I'll pass it over to Michelle.
Thank you. I got my dogs a splash pad. Thank you, Viviana. So that they can like jump around in the water on the hot days, which will bring me a lot of joy. And it came in the mail today. So yeah, that's my self-care today. I opened that package when I got home. And I'm really, really excited to pick them up later so that I can see how it goes. And I'll pass it to Christina.
I also drink water. But the other thing I did, I keep a tennis ball at my job. So when I feel that knot of stress in the back, and today I used it, I put it up against the wall and I just rub that knot out when the stress hits. And I will pass it on. Who has not gone to Tyrone?
Thank you, Christina. So today I joined the Legion of folks who went outside. It was terrific. I was at Bushnell Park eating lunch amongst the geese.
Great. You want to popcorn it, Tyrone?
Anyone? Okay. Chief Davis Gooch, I think.
Hi, everyone. I actually made time to catch up during my lunchtime with a couple of good friends just to chat it up.
Awesome.
I will popcorn to, I'm sorry, I'm hitting the wrong buttons. I will popcorn to Chief Blackbird.
Thank you, Chief David Scooge. Today, I actually just took some time to drink my, and don't laugh, y'all, my Ensure. I made time to get it done. Often it goes in my lunch bag and it goes back home with me. And not like I call them the chalky ones. I found like a liquid one. There's a fruit punch, there's like an apple juice. You should check it out. So if you need something fast, drink your Ensure. And I'll popcorn it to Mr. Martinez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry I was late. Was picking up my little ones from the bus stop. I apologize. So I missed the intro. What's the intro again, Chief?
What did you do to take care of yourself today?
I haven't done that yet.
Well, you need to.
Oh, no, wait. I did. The team and I at one point got up and took a walk around the office. So that was actually something that we did for our mental health. We went to get fresh air.
Good, awesome. Who do you want to pass it on to?
I'll popcorn to, has Mr. Sugarman gone?
Yeah, he has.
He has Judith Fagan.
She has. So I can tell you, we have Yolette that hasn't gone, Charisse.
So I'll pass it on to Miss Violeta.
Today, I actually had lunch. A lot of times I eat breakfast and then don't remember or get too busy. And I had lunch today around 2:00.
Great. You want to pass it on to somebody else, Violette?
Somebody that hasn't spoken.
You want to pass us?
Sure. I'll
Sorry.
pass it to
Let me
the
let me
kids.
just turn this camera.
Evan and Trammell.
Hi, sorry for the confusion. I'm Miss Lee. I'm a 7th grade science teacher at MLK, but we have 2 students with us who will be answering the question. How do you take
Hi,
care of
Miss
yourselves?
Lee.
Hi, Michelle. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Good to see you.
I was like, oh my God, Michelle's here. Ah. Or I'm sorry.
Okay, you wanna go first? Okay. I drink a lot of water because I drink water a lot every day. I refilled it like 4 times.
I basically just ate and sleep.
That's better than what I'm doing. And what were your names again? I'm sorry.
I'm Heaven.
I'm Tremor.
It's a pleasure to have you guys here. I'm very happy to see you guys.
Thank you.
All right, and we can pass it on. Has Bert gone?
Yep, I'm trying to see who has not gone.
I have not gone, and so I'm with Alejandro. I have not been successful. I've taken care of others today, so that's my.
You gotta take care of yourself. So
at some point. So that's me, and I would say, who is Charisse? Did you go? I don't think you've gone.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yahira, I love your self-reflections, and I enjoyed hearing everyone else's because I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't do anything, but I chose water instead of coffee. I'm currently sitting outside, and I did have lunch today, which is a win, so I'm doing good. And I'll popcorn it to Mauricia.
Hello, everyone. I also went on the walk today, but I'm not going to say that. I drank tea today. I haven't drank tea in so long since the weather has been nicer. So I went back to my roots and drank tea. So I don't know who
I think everyone has gone. Correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, Phil just joined us, so we'll put Phil in the spot. Phil, what have you done to take care of yourself today? He's probably still connecting.
What have I done to take care of? I had lunch.
There we go. I'm sensing a theme here. I think we all need to do a better job of taking care of ourselves and scheduling lunch, like literally writing it into our calendar.
Yes.
So everyone went, right? I didn't miss anyone. Nope. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys for indulging me in first couple of minutes to just self-reflect, get us grounded and ready to go for this meeting. As always, you know, we are here to serve a purpose for our staff, our teachers, and our larger community. And actually, it's great to see that we have 2 students on the call. You guys get to see this in action, which is awesome. But again, it's really important to take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, how are we going to take care of our community? And I know it's easier to say than do, but just try your hardest to drink more water, remember your lunch, simple stuff. Can't believe we have to repeat those simple stuff to ourselves, huh? All right, so let's get started. We have a packed agenda today. So the first thing on the agenda today is we're going to be discussing the summer contract. So Chief Blackburn, I'm going to pass that over to you so you can give us updates on that.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Yahira, and good evening to everyone. I do want to begin by saying thank you to the board members who did have an opportunity to attend the SGC Showcase. Much appreciated. Thank you for taking the time. So as it relates to our summer contracts, I want to say I think our last meeting actually went through what summer programming would look like. We would have our early start program, middle school programming, summer bridge, and also credit recovery. Also shared that we had opened up an RFP process for any CBO in the city to apply to, of course, facilitated through our partners at the City of Hartford. That's what we have to do. And that opened up mid-April and closed at the end of April. And we did have an opportunity to review those. And we only had 12 submissions for the summer contracts. And from that, what I want to present to you today from the 12 are the contracts that do need to go to the board because their request was over the threshold. So what I shared with Christina and she shared with all of you is that the agency, the amount they requested, the amount that we are proposing to be granted, the location of where they will be doing programming, as well as the scope of services and projected outcomes. So I believe you all had an opportunity to review this, but I will highlight each one. Active Theater, they've worked with us in the past. They did request the 57,450. We thought that was a little bit out of step based on the number of weeks they would be providing service and also thinking about the number of students that they would be providing. So the granted amount that we are recommending is the 5450. Their Active Theater Academy, that's what the ATAA stands for, like they did prior years, providing that high quality arts instruction. And there's a performance at the end. Our projected outcomes for all of our agencies is that we are looking for them to have that 75% attendance in each enrichment program. So the ADA, really working with them, understanding that yes, the ADA is super important as students flow over from the academic portion of the day. We want to maintain that, but also keeping in mind that students on a given day may need to go to a doctor's appointment, something like that. So the 75% attendance. Also, the 85% of enrichment attendees will complete a pre and post survey. This year, we are really interested in finding out from various stakeholder groups, our student attendees, as well as staff that are working, and even those individuals from the CBOs that are going to, either be a contractor to find out what has been their experience. So working with our Chief Performance Officer, a really short pre and post survey. We would like to look at, of course, perception data from our programs. The Center for Latino Progress, they would be Active Theater would be supporting Summer Bridge and our middle school programming. Center for Latino Progress would be supporting Summer Bridge. Camp Current, really excited about this program. We did a pilot last year with Camp Current, and Camp Current has carved out specifically for Hartford Public Schools, well, they take all Hartford students, specifically for Hartford Public Schools to support the enrichment timeframe, a cohort just for Hartford Public School students. So they're picked up from their early start site, transported to Camp Current, and then brought back to the early start site for dismissal. Now, in doing that in partnership with the district, that's what they requested and definitely felt that was in line for the 4 weeks of programming. Thank you, Christina. OpMad. OpMad is supporting Early Start at Elam's and Kennelly. The request was the 50,000, and what they are looking to do is really an extension of their current after-school program at several Hartford Public Schools, along with field trips, and as you see here, what they've laid out in their scope of services. The Village, they are providing enrichment to our middle school program. And the middle school program, as you see laid out here, and I can also do Catholic Charities at the same time because they are at the same program, same campus. So they work together to determine how they would bring their programs together to support our middle school students this year. That is a new program for the district. We have not done that in the past. So these are the summer contracts that we are putting before the board for approval based on that threshold being above the $50,000. Catholic Charities, it says 4888, but they already have an existing contract that does bump them up over that 50,000, as well as the Village. So I'll pause there. The only other piece that I will add to that is that additionally during the summer, we do visits with all of our enrichment providers. We like to be a part. We work with them to ensure that field trips are done, and we provide oversight to them with anything that is needed. Security is also provided. Students will have an opportunity to have lunch before they go to enrichment. And I think those are the only other big pieces that I wanted to add, that there will be security for the program for the students from the beginning of the academic program until enrichment ends. Breakfast and lunch are provided. Field trips are a part of all of our programs being offered for the summer. So I'll pause there for any questions, and thank you.
Thank you, Chief Blackburg, for that presentation. Christina, can you stop sharing your screen so I can take a look at my fellow board members to see if anyone has questions? As always, I will reserve questions that I have until my fellow board members speak out first. So I just want to reiterate, Christina, correct me if I'm wrong, this has to go through the Finance Committee, right? Chief Blackburg, it's gonna go to the Finance Committee, or is it?
So after this committee, it will go on to Finance.
Great. So I asked my fellow board members, if you have any finance questions, please reserve those comments and questions when we meet. I think it's next week for our Finance Committee to discuss this. So I see Phil, you have your hand up. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I may have missed this when looking at these contracts. I saw the requirements to participate in the enrichment program, but what is the, I guess, measure of success? Like, what does success look like for these programs? And I may have missed that, so I do apologize.
Thank you, Phil. Chief Blackburg.
Thank you, Chairwoman Escribano. So, Mr. Rozier, the measure of success that we are asking from our providers really is the attendance component, as well as looking at those pre and post surveys, asking students, like, have they enjoyed the program? What did they like best about the program? Because we have asked these providers simply to provide enrichment as a complement to the academic program, really at the request of families. So a few years back, families asked us to provide these types of enrichment at the end of Early Start. So families would not necessarily have to look for a summer alternative at 11:30 or at 12 p.m. because we know that's kind of difficult to do. So we provided these enrichment programs for them as a complement to the academic piece.
I appreciate that. So I guess digging a little deeper, so you're providing, so we're providing enrichment program to complement, right, instruction time that took place in school. So a couple of questions. One is, are there metrics that we're bumping up against to say, yep, like this provider is doing what they said they're supposed to be doing, and how does that look? And then two, enrichment. So enrichment to do what? I guess is what I'm asking. So like, is this enrichment for babysitting, or is this enrichment to like help kids with math or something? Like, I'm just trying to understand, like, to what extent is this enrichment program supposed to deliver? And again, I'm not saying, I think it's doing great work, but I guess what I'm trying to push at is, can we be doing more? And if so, what does that require and how does that look?
Chief Blackburg, I know Phil wasn't here for your previous presentation. If you can give him a quick overview of all of that and those other questions, I think that'll be super helpful.
Thank you, Ms. Escribano. So, Mr. Reserve, just to step back for a moment, the complement is just to the actual program, like, so it's a full day instead of a half day program. So it's not to support or to extend the instruction, but it is definitely to offer opportunity, other access, the field trips that we've asked them to incorporate. Many of our providers do what I call like program speed dating. So they're asking students on that first day, that first week, okay, like here are options. We can do dance, we could do arts, we could do different things. Like, what is it that you would like to participate based on what they've shared with us they're going to do? So in looking at the scopes that were provided, some providers are doing themes, a summer survivor theme, a leadership academy. So it really is that type of enrichment to allow students to have just different exposure and to have a summer outlet. So it's not to extend any type of learning that's happening in the daytime, but it really is like extended hours and not babysitting, because they are in specific and targeted programming that's taking place during the enrichment piece. To the latter question, like how is it measured? When we go out to do our site visits, we do have particular strands that we are looking for programming. Program management, what does that look like? We are looking at the ratios. Do you have enough staff? Are kids just sitting there doing like busy work? Like, are they just in coloring books? So as a team, we go out and we do those types of site visits, make those observations, and then report back to the providers.
Okay, thank you. My one suggestion, and this is just truly a suggestion, maybe thinking about rephrasing or different terminology for enrichment, because when I think of enrichment, I think people think different things. So let's just maybe really maybe narrow the focus a little bit. So we say this, like, this is what this is supposed to do.
Thank you, Mr. Reger. I really like that. Like if we can define it on the front end. So team, I think that's something we can add even in our communications. And Mr. Sugarman is on the line with us and he's helping us out with communication. So I think that'd be great to kind of put that out there so people are clear about what we are meaning by enrichment. So thank you, Mr. Reger. That's great feedback.
Yep.
Thank you, Phil. That was a great suggestion. I see Tyrone's hand is up. Mr. Walker.
Yeah, I wanted to suggest too that because Phil's questions I think are right on point, and it indicates to me that as board members we need potentially some background into understanding what goes into child development, because there's a level to which we actually at times we have a district where the answer to getting kids better at math is 3 math classes. And in some cases, there are other components that go into actually helping a child develop and learn and be better in their academic pursuits. And I believe, I think about Hartford, there are a number of young people who've never been camping, never been to certain sites around the state of Connecticut, that never engaged in certain activities. And so my belief is these activities are enrichment for them, because in the worlds they exist in, they may not get any of these opportunities. And so I do think helping us level set us in terms of what is, like we said, what's actually enrichment, and then what role do these activities play in developing the young person, so that when they come back to the classroom, they're actually more capable students to do the academic work that's in front of them. And we're not experts. And so I think that may be worth, that's just me just as a background to help us understand how this all fits together.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Before Chief Blackburg, I let you say anything. Christina I saw Shantae was here and then I don't see her on the screen. Did she say she was not gonna attend?
Oh, she had to step out, but she will be back.
I'm sorry, what? No, I think I lost Christina too. So she'll join us when
I unmuted on the other computer, and anyway, she had to step out, but she said she was returning.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure we didn't lose her. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Chief Blackburg, I just want to echo Phil's comments and questions in terms of how we are measuring the outcomes and the outputs, right? They're different, outcomes versus outputs. In addition to that, how often are these site visits going on? Is it once a week? Is it you're gonna go twice a week? What does that look like? And how many kids again, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the number roughly how many kids we were hoping to gain as part of this enrichment program on average, how much we were thinking for the summer?
Thank you, Ms. Escorbano. So to the first question, the site visits, the first week of programming, as an office, we are split up to the various sites. They are checking on them, looking at processes, making sure those pieces are done. So 2, that first week, 3rd week, and usually we go back that last week, just any celebrations we're invited to, performances based on what the kids have learned and put together over the 4 weeks, because it's a 4-week program. So that is how the site visits are conducted. To the second part of the question, how many students? It's not mandatory for any student that participates in Early Start or I think just Early Start or even the Summer Bridge piece. Well, Summer Bridge is different for Early Start to flow into enrichment. So it's really parent directed that I want my child to participate. So that number does vary. We are getting ready to land on rosters, but most of our CBOs, except for I want to say 2, have the capacity to accept up to 120 students.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And then the only piece I would add is that Summer Bridge, we have encouraged all of our students attending Summer Bridge to attend the enrichment piece. In middle school, as you know, all of our middle school students who elect to sign up to be a part of the program will be with our CBO providers from the beginning of the day until the conclusion of their day.
Thank you, Chief Blackburg, for that information. If there are no other questions, I feel comfortable bringing this to the Finance Committee to discuss the funding aspect of this, the financial aspect of this. No, and any final questions? I want to open it one more time before we move on to our next topic, since we have a packed agenda. No? Great. All right, Chief Blackburg, you're all set to go to the Finance Committee and repeat this again. Now we're going to go on to another important topic, leveraging the surplus, the early investment to support our secondary, student post-secondary access, so early promise. So Chief Blackburg, I know you and Mr. Sugarman are going to tag team that, if I'm correct.
So Ms. Escorbano, I believe that Mr. Sugarman will be presenting.
Okay,
this portion.
great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Mr. Sugarman, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. Excited to be here to talk to you about this program and initiative that we're proposing called the Post-Secondary Investment Pathway. There are 2 components of that, and I'll get into the details of it, but essentially we are looking to boost our attendance and create superior attendance habits as early as possible, going back to kindergarten, which will hopefully lead towards increased high school graduation for all of our students. Just a review of our agenda and what we're going to cover today. So the first thing we want to do is just give an overview of our major goals as it relates to our strategic plan, and just provide an explanation as to how this proposed initiative will fit into those goals. Also want to give a review and explanation of Hartford Promise for those who are not familiar, as this is sort of the 3rd stage in that post-secondary investment pathway, and then go into a deep dive on the proposed solutions that we have to meet some of our challenges, and touch on the financial investments, and long-term sustainability of the program. So I think everyone is familiar with this slide, at least in one venue or another. and certainly our major goals as it relates to our 4 priorities on our strategic plan. The first 4, of course, tied to specific assessments and percentages as it relates to academic achievement. The last goals, 5 and 6, relating to our 4-year cohort graduation rate, and then reducing chronic absenteeism. And I have these highlighted because the initiatives that we're proposing, while they have an indirect impact on the first 4 goals, have a really direct impact on these last 2 goals, goals 5 and 6, on graduation and reducing chronic absenteeism. So because we're recommending that we propose our general surplus, I wanted just to give an orientation on where we are so far in that surplus in terms of financial sustainability. The first bucket is the ability to roll over the board's non-lapsing account to next year. We also made an investment in our staff. So money that was previously allocated towards staff has been reinvested in those staff members. This surplus was due to not being able to hire as many staff as we had projected. We wanted to make sure that our staff that were on board with us at the year received a gratitude bonus. It also includes retro pay for several bargaining units that was agreed upon in their contracts. And then the third bucket, which does have, I would say, a more direct impact on our students, although I think all of those do, arguably, is in our safety and facilities. So utilizing existing contracts and existing vendors and adding on to those contracts, recognizing what are the priority areas for upgrades within our schools. This was conducted after soliciting feedback and then also doing walkthroughs of those buildings, and then making a substantial investment in areas of need and also areas of improvement, areas where we can make investments that would benefit us in the long run. So a quick review of Hartford Promise. I know a lot of folks on this call are familiar with Hartford Promise, but it is a program that continues to grow. So since 2016, there have been over 800 Hartford Promise scholars that have come through Hartford Public Schools. They've been awarded over $7 million in scholarships. Currently, there are 480 Promise scholars in college that have come from every high school throughout the district. And so the criteria for Hartford Promise is pretty simple. There are 4 components. You have to be a Hartford resident throughout high school. You have to attend a Hartford Public High School throughout high school. You have to have an average 3.0 or better GPA for all 4 years of high school. Now you could have a 2.9 your freshman year and a 3.1 your sophomore year, and you're okay, it's cumulative. Same thing with graduation. Graduation requirement is 93% or better in terms of attendance. And again, that is for all 4 years of high school. You have to live, attend, and achieve those 2 requirements all 4 years. When you graduate high school, Hartford Promise scholars receive up to $20,000 to attend any college in the country. That reflects 4-year colleges. The amount per year for 2-year schools is $2,500, but there are no restrictions on that scholarship. They can go to any college. It is a last dollar scholarship, so it fills in the gap after Pell Grants, after other scholarships have been offered, which really, for a lot of Promise scholars, if this wasn't available, would have a serious impact on the colleges that they would be able to go to. It would have an impact on their ability to live on a college campus rather than having to commute. Now, again, those situations are right for certain students, but we wouldn't want finances to be something that dictated their decisions. The outcomes that you see for Hartford Promise, 90 plus colleges attended. Now, that's not currently happening. That's over the course of the last 6 years that we've seen those 90 plus colleges attended. UConn is one of the schools that we see the most Promise scholars attend for obvious reasons and because they have a matching scholarship. We have a significant amount of students. Hartford Promise has a significant amount of students attending HBCUs. I think there are 12 current scholars that are at Howard, several that are attending Ivy League schools and various schools across the country. 85% persistence for those students for their first to second year, and 70% of them graduate. 70% of Promise scholars graduate, which in comparison to similar groups, that's about a 15 percentage point increase. And Promise scholars, when they graduate, we have some that are working as teachers at Hartford Public Schools, which is fantastic. We have some working in the mayor's office, and we even have interns serving on the Board of Education and chairing this committee meeting right now. We can go to the next slide. So this is seeing the investment pathway, the post-secondary pathway, a comprehensive look at that. So again, starting on the right-hand side of the screen, Hartford Promise, which we just talked about, that is really targeting performance in 9th through 12th grade for Hartford residents that do the other criteria that we mentioned. Now, we're in a unique position to invest the $2 million surplus in funds to promote attendance habits going back to kindergarten and making sure that our students are in our buildings as much as possible. So we have two initiatives that make up the post-secondary investment pathway. One is called the Launching Pad. That is for students in kindergarten through 5th grade. They will receive $100 every year that they have greater than 90% attendance in school. They have to be a resident of Hartford. They have to be enrolled in a Hartford public school for the entire year. If they achieve better than 90% attendance, they will receive a $100 investment to be put into an account for them, which they will receive when they graduate from a Hartford public high school. Now, they could start with us, K through 5. They could go somewhere else, 6 through 8, come back to us for high school. That money is still there. Understanding that some of our families are going to move in and out of Hartford and come back, but as long as they started with us and had a full year and done the 90% attendance and then graduate from a Hartford public high school, they will have access to the money that they earned in elementary school. The second component of this is Early Promise. This is for grades 6 through 8. These students will receive $500 every year that they have greater than 90% attendance in middle school. This could be a student has greater than in their 6th grade year. Potentially there's something, circumstances that prevent that from happening in their 7th grade year, but they come back in 8th grade, they've earned it for 2 years. It doesn't have to be for all 3 years. These students would have access to those funds when they qualify as a Hartford Promise Scholar. So there's an additional criteria for those students. They have to have the greater than 90% attendance in middle school, and then they have to qualify as a Promise Scholar in high school. They have to obviously graduate from a Hartford public high school, but then they would have access to up to $1,500. The third stage, as we talked about, is then a Hartford Promise Scholar. So those students that qualify also have $20,000 in scholarship and matching scholarships that come from schools like UConn, University of Chicago, Central Connecticut, and then also housing that comes from schools like University of Hartford, among others. So this is a look at the criteria, which is pretty similar for both of these stages. So the Launching Pad, 90% greater than 90% attendance every year, Hartford residency. You have to be enrolled in a Hartford public school elementary school for a full year, and then you have to graduate from a Hartford public high school. That money is then eligible after graduation to be used in a post-secondary manner. It could be a 4-year school, and that $600 helps to pay for fees or books in a student's first quarter. It could be for a 2-year school. It could be for a trade school or certification program. If the student wants to be an electrician, this would be money that would help to pay for some of the fees as they launch that part of their career. They just have to graduate for high school, and it has to be used for post-secondary. The second stage, the Early Promise, same criteria, except for they also have to qualify as a Hartford Promise Scholar. This would be eligible for students up to $1,500. Again, for any sort of post-secondary, 2-year, 4-year trade or certificate program. The one difference with Hartford Promise is at Hartford Promise, a student has to go to college. They would not have to go to college in this situation. They wouldn't get the Promise Scholarship at that point. They wouldn't have to go to college. They would just have to go to a post-secondary school certification program or a trade school. I wanted to just show a couple of examples of what this could look like. These are largely made up stories. There might be some similarities to current students that we have at Hartford Public Schools, but largely made up stories. So we have a young woman, Nicole. She enrolls at Hartford Public Schools as a kindergarten student, graduates from Weaver. She's at Hartford Public Schools for 13 years, lives in Hartford. She's had great attendance throughout. She's been an excellent student, and she earns a Hartford Promise Scholarship for academic achievements in high school. She's the salutatorian of the school. She's highly sought after by colleges across the country and is accepted to the University of Chicago. University of Chicago is one of the schools that matches Hartford Promise scholarships. So Nicole would earn $600 from her elementary school achievements, $1,500 from her middle school achievements for $2,100 from Hartford Public Schools, $20,000 from Hartford Promise, and an additional $20,000 from the University of Chicago for a grand total of $42,100. This is beside the scholarships that she has likely earned as a salutatorian from the University of Chicago and elsewhere. So just wanted to paint one picture of what that could look like. Here's another scenario. So Victor moves to Hartford before his 6th grade year. He's at Burr. He's a tough time adjusting. He does not meet the attendance requirement his first year, but he hits his stride in grade 7, and his attendance is fantastic, and he starts to get really good grades. He graduates from Buckley. He's earned a Hartford Promise scholarship, and he's going to University of Hartford. University of Hartford is a school that gives him free housing. He earns $1,000 from Hartford Public Schools for his 2 years where he achieved the criteria in middle school, 20 grand from Hartford Promise, and $8,000 annually from UHart for a grand total of $53,000 because they cover room and board. The last scenario is Simone, born and raised in Hartford. She's always had a dream of working in the healthcare field. She's had perfect attendance throughout her time at Hartford Public Schools. She works in our allied health pathway at Hartford Public High School, which just solidifies her decision to become a medical assistant. She's had perfect attendance. She is not going to college. She's going to go right into earning her certification to become a medical assistant. She earns $2,100 from Hartford Public Schools that she can use towards that certification. And just to touch on the financial sustainability. So this is an overall investment of $2 million. The way that I modeled this in elementary school, so took our average students per grade, average rate of Hartford residents, which is approximately 75%. I am basing this model on 75% of those students achieving greater than 90% attendance, which takes us back to our average attendance rates of the 5 years prior to the pandemic. So there's going to be a lot of recovery that's needed in that group. But I thought that was a fair place to start for modeling, noting that we will need to recover, and then we will hopefully be exceeding those numbers for years to come. The initial investment that we're talking about extends back to the rising kindergarten class. Early Promise model is similar. There's 125 Hartford Promise scholars on average per year for eligible high schools that we're talking about. So that is really the number that we're basing this on. The investment there would extend back to the rising 4th grade class, so students that are starting 4th grade next year. The one thing that we've done here is we are also going to give the $500 investment to all rising 9th graders that attend Summer Bridge that also meet the residency requirement and then graduate from high school. Those students are missing out on that, on at least one of these components, and we wanted to make sure that their efforts over the summer would be recognized. And that is it for the information. I'm happy to answer questions as it relates to these programs.
Thank you, Mr. Sugarman, for the great presentation. And I think at this point, everybody knows that Hartford Promise has a special place in my heart. So I'm going to start this off a little bit different than I usually do. I'm going to start off with questions myself first, because I think it set the tone, and then I'll pass it on to my fellow board members. So the first thing, I just want to reiterate, any financial questions and hold it off for the finance committee. Obviously, I have some questions about how we're going to match it with Hartford Foundation, et cetera, all of that. Reserve those questions for the finance committee. But I just want to start off with two things, Mr. Sugarman. One, can you send the board the list of those universities that match? I know it's UChicago, UConn, UHart, CCSU. I don't know if that ever got resolved. The point is, can you send the board a list of those additional universities and partnerships that you have that will provide students with those additional funds and support? I think that would be very helpful for the board to have. The second thing is I fully support this. And my question is in terms of marketing, right? Communication, how are we gonna put this out to our family, to everyone, so everyone in Connecticut knows, move to Hartford, right? We gotta get people move to Hartford. You stay in Hartford. This is an amazing opportunity for our kids. I would love to hear a little bit more about what you guys are planning on how to put that word out there. In addition to that, I know when you're in high school, at least when I was there at Hartford High, there's also an alumni scholarship that students get. I don't know if all the high schools do it. I think they do. It'll be good, beneficial to know how are you guys going to wrap that around with this and market that. Like, there are so many other opportunities besides this, right? There's the Fox Scholarship, there's the Alumni Scholarship, and maybe there are other things that I'm not aware of. I think it'll be beneficial to know how are you guys going to wrap this into this overall story of if you stay in Hartford, remain in Hartford, these are all the resources that you have. So Mr. Sugarman, I know that was a lot.
No, it's no problem. Thank you for those questions, Ms. Escribano. So the first question in terms of sending the matching schools, no problem. We will send information. There's an additional matching school. Quinnipiac is also matching Hartford Promise. So that list continues to grow and hopefully will continue to grow in the future. In terms of communication, I've had conversations with Chief Black Burke, just initial brainstorming conversations about how we would get the word out. Have also reached out to one school specifically. I did not want to reach out to multiple schools until we had this conversation, just to get some initial thoughts on how we could promote this. And so one, there would certainly be a mass awareness campaign around this. If and when this is approved, we would want to make sure that we hosted a press conference. We'd want to make sure that members of the board were there and able to celebrate this and also encourage some of our families to attend that as well. Just so that people can start to see what that actually looks like from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. And then there would really be conversations and awareness building amongst schools. I think that there's an opportunity to do a signing ceremony with students as far back as kindergarten. I've had thoughts about them writing a letter to their future selves or a letter to their future selves about what sort of investment they're going to make and then signing that, something that we would do every year. We could record that, of course, in PowerSchool to make sure that we're tracking, all of our students. There would be a robust social media campaign around this. This is also something that we could engage marketing companies in to do more of a comprehensive scholarship awareness for Hartford Public Schools. There was a recent story on NBC and will be in the Current talking about some of the scholarships that Hartford Public Schools has to offer. And so I bring that up only because there's a big opportunity with a story like this for earned media. Press wants to see stories like this. They want to see what we're doing for our students, and they want to see how remarkable our students are. And so we would lean heavily on that as well. But I would tell you that there would certainly be a comprehensive strategy around this specific initiative, and then also a comprehensive strategy around all scholarships and post-secondary offerings that we support at the district.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Sugarman. And I'll let me just finish saying this, and then I'll open it up to my fellow board members. I think this is an amazing, phenomenal opportunity for our students, for our district. It's an opportunity for us to change the narrative that we have in Hartford, especially for our kids, right? To finally change that negative stereotype that follows us, unfortunately. This is not one of the opportunities that we can start changing that narrative about Hartford schools, about our students, their successes. I'm really excited about this. And obviously I'll hold my finance questions about the 2 million. How do we make that sustainable long-term speaking? Because I want to see this become the norm in our district. I want future kids to have this opportunity. So I'll stop there and I'll open it up to my fellow board members. Ms. Brody, I see your hand is up. Floor is all yours, ma'am.
Thank you. So we have Hartford Promise, and I know all about the requirements because I have a Hartford Promise college student. So all the things you said resonated is fine. What I thought we would have done as a district is had the opportunity for the students, because it's a high bar to me. And to be realistic, like, are we graduating a majority of students with this attendance, with these grades? And I thought it would have been an awesome opportunity with a surplus to say, because we know attendance is not always a student not wanting to be at school every day. We know the communities we serve, we know our kids, we know where they come from. And we know attendance is a lot of the time has nothing to do with the student, but has a lot to do with parents, the household, the circumstance. So with the Hartford Promise, okay, we are holding them to this 3.0 high attendance. That's that's the scholarship. But this was an opportunity for us to be like, we know realistically our kids are not making 90 plus attendance. And we know the majority of our kids are not 3.0 and above. So I'm confused as to why we would not take the opportunity for some of our other kids that are not the high achievers and the high attendance getters, that we wouldn't have an opportunity for them under this to say, you are passing, you are graduating, and sometimes you aren't going to a college, or you're not even going to a trade school. Actually, you're saying, some of our young ladies could be the girls for technology. They've been groomed since middle school, and sometimes, lower grades than that. They have these ideas. They've been trained to have these pitches. They're ready to go into business. But if they don't go to a trade school, if they don't go to a 4-year college, 2-year college, they can't get money they potentially earn. So I just think we missed the mark with the students that we have a majority of, and not extending some financial opportunity to put them on good standing when they graduate. But they are not this, they 85% of the time, the average attendance. They have some C's, but they have some B's. I need to understand, why wouldn't we not aim for those students that are the majority of our students?
Thank you, Ms. Brody. Oh, sorry, Mr. Sugarman, I'll let you speak now. I just want to reiterate that this is an initiative. This is the first time we're doing all of this. We're still got a lot to learn on how to make this more accessible to other students. And correct me if I'm wrong, right? Which I don't think I'm wrong, but this is how we have high expectations. And I hear you, Ms. Brody, and I agree with you. There are students who may not reach that 90% mark, but this is an opportunity for us to have high expectations of our students, create that culture, create those expectations. And as we move forward with this launching pad and this opportunity, there will be chances for us in the future to reverse it, not reverse all of it, but make some changes to it. Mr. Sugarman?
No, but to your point, Madam Chair, we have that for those students, but we're creating another opportunity for those same students. So I'm not saying we should not have high expectations, and I'm not saying that 85% attendance is not high. It may be the best that they could do. It's not a matter of exposing them as a school district. We're supposed to be exposing them to high rigorous curriculum. We're doing all of that, but we already have something in place, the Hartford Promise, for those high achieving students. Why would we not have it for our students who are still achieving? They're just not high achieving. Because it seems like, when we're saying it, it seems like of course we want AB students, of course we want you to come to school every day. And it seems like we're using money to say, go do that, please, because we have money. Money is the incentive. And I don't know, it just makes me feel a certain kind of way. But I'm just looking out for the student who is in the middle. They're trying their best. They're graduating from school and they are just not meeting these high marks. Not saying we still will have that high expectation, but what is the reward for those who are not high achieving when most of our district is not high achieving? So that's the question.
Thank you, Ms. Brody.
Can I chime in before Mr. Sugarman goes? So Ms. Brody, I think you actually raised a very good question. And I think it's a much broader conversation in terms of, as a district, how do we move the people from the middle to the top? But I just want to be very clear that as a district, and I'm speaking for myself, and I'm not speaking for anyone else on the board, I will not be in favor or support anything that lowers expectations around academic achievement or attendance. So I just want to make sure that we're very clear on that.
And I want to be clear that that's not what I'm saying. So how you're phrasing it, that's your understanding. That's not what I'm saying.
If I can call this to order very quickly, And let me paraphrase before this gets out of hand. So, Mr. Sugarman, can you just give us information background on the methodology on how you came to those numbers? Ms. Brody, you bring up a great suggestion, and I hear you, we hear you, I agree. And I agree with you, Mr. Rigor, that I want high expectation and I'm with you. I don't want to lower our expectations and our standards, but Mr. Sugarman, I'll give you the floor and the opportunity to inform the board on how you came up with the methodology on how for that 90%.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I appreciate those questions. I think, for us, this is an incentive program to hopefully motivate higher achievement. And I think to your point, Ms. Brody, the launching pad component of this, we are really asking students to live in Hartford, go to a Hartford public school, and not be chronically absent. And then we're asking them to graduate high school. So the 90% number, if you're at 90% or below, you are considered chronically absent. You've missed 18 or more days of school in a year. That's why we're saying greater than 90%. So it could be 17 days, but that would mean that you are not a chronically absent student. One of our major goals is to reduce chronic absenteeism. And so this is one of the ways that we want to incentivize our students and families to build those habits earlier. Our kindergarten students, over 50% are chronically absent. What we're saying is if you miss less than 18 days of school, you'll have a $100 investment. And so those students, they don't need to qualify as Promise Scholars, the K through 5 students. They just need to graduate high school. They need to apply that money to something in post-secondary. And so for those, you referenced young women that may not be going to a trade school, if there is some program that they can invest that money in to extend upon their skills, this would qualify. They would be able to use that money for that. And that may be something that prevents them from getting to a certain tier within an organization, and they could get some accreditation. So the K through 5 group does not need to qualify as a Promise Scholar. For the middle school component, again, we're asking those students to go to Hartford Public School, live in Hartford, and have, again, just don't be chronically absent. We are thinking that if those students are not chronically absent and they start to see that money accumulate in a post-secondary account, those students are going to be more likely to think about post-secondary success. And therefore, we would hopefully be creating more Promise Scholars in Hartford Public, not just rewarding the ones that are already going to be Promise Scholars, but rewarding students that are able to move from that high middle to the top. I do think there's an opportunity in other venues and through other programs and outreach for us to help some of those other students that are not going to achieve. But the goal here is to get kids in school, to get them to graduate, and to get them to achieve as high as they possibly can in terms of academics.
Mr. Sugarman, if I can add a suggestion, because Ms. Brody had a good point. Obviously, when a kid doesn't show up, there are multiple reasons as to why a kid is absent, right? They got to take care of their siblings, they got to go to work, trauma, etc. There's a lot of reasons. So I think it'll be helpful as you guys are marketing this and putting this out there. Also highlighting the work that the community, sorry, I was going to call you guys a community engagement committee, but what Nashette and her team is doing, right? That emotional, social aspect of it. If you guys have 14 absences or whatever it is, like reach out to one of our offices and we can provide support and resources. I think it's important. It's a great opportunity for us to put those two hand in hand. We want you to get that money. We don't want you to be chronically absent. We understand life happens, things are going on. If you're stuck in one of these situations, reach out to this office, the Welcome Center. We will provide the resources to get you to that 90%, right? I think this could be a good opportunity to have to also market and and put that message out there, because we want to support our kids and we are supporting them. So just thinking out loud right here, right now. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, and I don't need a response right now, but I'm just thinking about the social emotional aspect of it and how we can leverage that.
Yeah, all I would say is I think this is an additional tool for us to use to motivate our students. I think Chief Black Burke and her team do incredible work in reaching out to all of our students and trying to break down barriers. This helps to provide a little bit of incentive and also another means for communication.
Right.
And we would certainly work with that team hand in hand to make sure that students knew exactly where they were in terms of absenteeism, and celebrate all the students that earn the $100 and support all of our students that need that help to make sure they get the $100 the next year.
Right, 100% with you, and I'm happy to hear that both teams are working very well together. I'm going to open it up. I know Mr. Walker has a question, and I just want to say that this is more than just Hartford Promise. This is for our city, this is for our kids. This goes past all of that. This is breaking down barriers and stereotypes and creating, giving our kids the opportunity to graduate, whether it's going to trade school or universities. It's more than just Hartford Promise. Mr. Walker?
So one, I'm generally supportive of the idea of using some limited financial incentive for attendance. So that's what's being proposed here. I think the reason we're having this dialogue is there needs to be a broader discussion, maybe beyond this presentation. I think we are what Ms. Brody was talking about is really a reimagining of the Hartford Promise Scholarship, and the whole program in general, reimagining it in a broader way. And that we can't address it today. What she's really saying, Hartford Promise per se, really targets those who are going into higher ed or some higher purpose beyond high school. And to her point, there's a broad number of Hartford students who deserve some type of send-off for the things they may achieve to do. And that's beyond this. This program, yes, I would say just put a pin on a discussion moving forward on this broader idea of what do we do with those 85% of students she's talking about who may not necessarily be a Hartford scholar, but also have aspirations beyond high school to do things that would enrich their lives. The other thing I'd want to talk about for the money is inviting us to think about best practices as well. We've looked at the story now on CBS of what McDonough Middle School is doing, right? They use their money to do a whole incentive program to get student attendance up. And so it feels like right now we're doing two different approaches. There's the approach that McDonough is using, and then this one where we're using purely a financial incentive. So I would invite, Mr. Sugarman and the other members of the cabinet to help us understand, are we going to do both approaches in the district? If one's better than the other, I guess what I'm suggesting, that's all I'd want to say too, because it seems like what's happening at McDonough seems to be fairly successful, and I wouldn't want to lose that. And so could we find a way, if we're looking for money, right, can we find a way to do both the long-term incentive, which is these financial incentives, and then the kind of real targeted short-term incentives to get students to come to school as well?
Thank you, Mr. Walker. I just want to reiterate, those broader conversations we'll have at another time. I do want to respectfully disagree with you, Mr. Walker. What happened at McDonough, what is happening at other schools too, is a complement to tackling chronic absent. I have issues saying that word. When kids are chronically absent. So I personally think it's a complement, and it's separate from what Mr. Sugarman, the cabinet, is requesting for this surplus of $2 million. It's a complement. It shouldn't be one or the other. And yes, I agree, it should be both at the same time, and other schools should replicate what McDonough has done, but we shouldn't create this division. And I'll give you a chance to speak, Mr. Walker. I just want to be respectful of time. Mr. Rigor's hand has been up, and then I want to have Mr. Sugarman say a couple of words to all of this, and I'll give you back the floor, Mr. Walker. Mr. Rigor?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is that my understanding of this program is additive to all the other efforts that we're doing, which includes the efforts at McDonough and other schools. So I don't think this takes away from anything. This is additive. And again, this is to promote attendance and academic achievement for Hartford students that go to Hartford Public Schools. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Rigor. Mr. Sugarman, I know you had your hand up for quite some time.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Walker, I appreciate the opportunity to clarify. So I just wanted to note that the story on McDonough and the celebration of the efforts that they're doing is something that is done district-wide. So that is done at all of our schools. They have SES personnel, FCSSPs, Chief Blackburk's team is engaged at our schools. It was just that McDonough was the place that the story was lifted. We actually had CBS at a couple of other schools as well, just, confined to the time they had available to share the story. It ended up being a McDonough focus, but it is a Hartford Public Schools district initiative with school-based ACE teams and also the district ACE team. And then I would also just reiterate Chairman Regore's point that, we would work hand in hand with Chief Blackburk's team, and this would be another tool that we would have to help incentivize students and motivate students to come to school and think long-term about graduation.
Right. This isn't an additive like we said, and it's not division, it's not one or the other. This is, and I couldn't have said it better, Mr. Sugarman, it's another tool in the toolbox to tackle this issue. Mr. Walker?
Yeah, I just feel Chairman Rigor said exactly what I was trying to capture. My expectation is that it be added. That's really all I was saying, is that I want.
Yes, I think we're all in agreement that this is in addition to the other strategies that the cabinet and staff and teachers and the community have been doing to tackle this issue that's facing Hartford. Are there any questions in regards to this specific initiative, this 2 million surplus, before we move on to our next topic? If there are no questions, I am excited and happy to move this along to the Finance Committee so we can get this moving. Thank you, Mr. Sugarman, for that presentation and answering our questions.
Thanks so much.
We're moving on to ketchup is a vegetable. And that is, where is she? I don't see her.
So,
all right, we're unmuted now.
Ms. Escribano?
Yes.
All right, just wanted to take a quick moment. Ms. Haldane from Advocacy to Legacy, as well as the beautiful and capable students at MLK, reached out and wanted to do this presentation. So I'm glad to have them, and thank you both, Heaven and Tremel. Is it Tremai or Tremel? Oh, that's Tremel. Sorry, that's me and my glasses. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Ms. Haldane.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Violette Haldane, and I work with Advocacy to Legacy, and we are an organization that teaches individuals, families, and communities how to advocate for themselves in order to change lives. We are at MLK this year because we wanted to do an after-school program, and Ms. Lee in the 7th grade asked if we could actually come into her classroom and work with the students. And so I'm going to introduce the students, and they will tell you about the project that they chose, because one of our goals is to have our young people make decisions and then work on the project and hopefully change policy and change laws. So I'm going to introduce you to the students.
I'm Heaven.
I'm Tremel.
And this is the Advocacy to Legacy School Lunch Project.
Students at MLK were asked to identify 3 things they would like to change in the 2021/22 school year. The top item that was most picked was school lunches.
Since 2016, we've been talking about school lunch issues, and the 10 Slices of Justice has many of the problems we face with school lunches today.
Can I pause for a minute? The students are not going to go with the PowerPoint presentation. In the interest of time, they're just going to summarize the information, but the PowerPoint is available to everyone so that they can see the actual details before the high-level presentation that the students make. So you can just put the PowerPoint away because they're not going to follow it. Thank you.
We had a survey and 251 students participated. 87 of the students ate school lunches. The people that didn't eat was because the food was nasty, looked unappetizing, and had ingredient restrictions.
Okay, these show the top 4 changes that the. Ooh.
Keep going.
Okay.
Take your time.
Show the top 4 changes that the students would like to see in the school lunches or like to change in the school lunches. So that right here.
The top four were portions, quality,
Yeah.
Variety.
variety.
Okay, based on our findings and discussions, our recommendations, like they just said, are improve the quality of the food, and 46% more food variety. So basically, this just would really like talk about how, like, there's a lot of situations in the school where they would eat school lunch, but it's not like really like prepared better enough. So like sometimes people would find that the fruit isn't like as fresh as usual, or there's like the milk is spoiled or something. So usually that's one of the main problems. And the mood for variety, that's another problem, because like some people don't really eat meat like that, or they're either lactose intolerant. So we think it's appropriate to have more food variety, so there are more options for the people who don't eat certain stuff.
43% said they wanted more food, so they should have certain amounts of food for certain age groups and allow students to go back in line to get food after everyone's served, just in case they're still hungry. Food waste is also an issue because some people they don't let us just get one thing out of the whole food. So we have to bring a whole tray and then take one thing out and then throw it away or give it away, but nobody ever really wants it, so we throw it away. And that's a lot of food waste piling up in them trash cans. Overall recommendation, students need to be able to say what they're actually eating and how it should go. So I think that there should be, or we think that there should be like a food council, like in our school or in most schools, so that they can talk about what they would like on the menu and how it should be prepared, or how it should be prepared and how it should be served so that it looks more appetizing, so people don't waste the food that they're paying for.
Those were the high level things. I'm just going to give you some background. 251 students participated in a survey, and when we initially started, we used some information that had been collected in 2016, which was the 10 Slices of Justice, which was done by the Hartford Food Council. And the same items that were identified in 2016 was again identified in 2022 for the students. So that was the foundation, and that was what was used as the survey that was sent out to the various schools and for students to respond to. One of the interesting things that occurred when the students first started talking about food in the school was they identified that during the school day, at times, many students were hungry because they might have missed breakfast, or they didn't eat the meal that was prepared because they didn't like it. And do you want to talk about Martin's Market?
Yeah. So we all decided as a group that we should have food inside of the school that's not school lunch, so that we don't take other people's lunch. So we had a little cabinet in one of our teachers' offices, not like a teacher, but like a sub teacher kind of, but she had snacks, like food that you could bring home, so you could cook it at home, so that you always had food at home. So you could go there, get food, and then take it home or eat it there, so that you wouldn't be hungry in class, and so you could pay attention better.
And one of the interesting side things of that was due to COVID, as some parents were quarantined, they began to call the school and ask if the school could send food home with the kids, so the families at home could have food because they were not able to go shopping because of the quarantine. We're going to open it up for questions. As I said, there's a very large presentation with all of the data that was collected. 251 students did respond from three schools in Hartford, and everything was really reflected in the 10 Slices of Justice, which was the work that was done in 2016.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Let me just quickly say, if I'll connect with Ms. Howden and you guys offline. I'm happy to connect you guys. When I worked at Food Share, help create the Milner Market that's over there to help supplement food in your homes in the weekends. I'm happy to connect with you afterwards, Ms. Howden, to help potentially create another market, food market for the families and kids at the school. For food share. That's free food. You guys can take home, cook, all that good stuff. So we'll connect offline. And I know Ms. Chief Blackburk and I are going to meet later this month or next month so we can tackle broader food policy questions and all of that we started having questions around. And I just want to encourage you guys to stay involved with us. And I hope you guys are good with us reaching out to you guys as we move forward with this. Okay. Mr. Walker.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Madam Chair and Mr. Walker, not to jump in front of you, I just wanted to, I failed to do so when I was introducing Ms. Haldane, but our food services director, as well as our chief of operations, are also on the call tonight, listening, and thank you to Heaven, Tramel, Ms. Haldane. So just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that we didn't want to have a one-sided conversation by any stretch. And as we look to have those further conversations with our food services director, Ms. Yolanda Burt, as well as Chief Davis Gooch.
Thank you so much. I'll connect with you guys offline about that stuff. CT Food Share, we got this. Mr. Walker? You're on mute.
Yeah, forgive me. I want to celebrate the students and their work and the support they've received, obviously, from teachers and community members and members of the food service staff. The recommendations were very solid. So speaking for the adults in the room, I'm going to ask that we really lean into the recommendations. One, the chairwoman's already got on, which is the market. There's already been another study done on college campuses. They've built up pantries because food insecurity follows students even as they're in college. So the idea of a school-based pantry makes a lot of sense, of students helping students and families helping families. I want to support too, let's find whatever funding and time support to help support this food council. I think it makes totally good sense to have students actually speaking with the food service staff and really beginning to have real dialogue around how to make the meal experience better for students and for those who are providing them that. So I really hope to hear that council has been adopted and taken off, at that one school at the very least. And I'd also strongly advocate for another partnership. And Chairwoman Yahara, you come with this one. It's food waste. It's really epidemic, and everyone's aware of it. And I think there's an opportunity to help the students in repurposing food that's not going to be used. And so those are things I think we can actually help the students to adopt. I would like to see them report back at some point next year as to how this effort is going.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Chief Blackburk, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Ms. Escribano. I know the students did mention the Martin's Market, and you also mentioned Milner Market. So yes, that is one area that we are also, especially for our families, right? Our families are able to access and actually go in and like shop. So Milner Market families can go in and shop. But I really, really would encourage a deeper conversation. I know we're limited on time tonight with food services. And of course, any board member who would like to be a part of that conversation to really speak about the pieces that have been raised, the food waste. I know you mentioned portion size, so that's my recommendation. Is that we just definitely have that conversation sooner rather than later. Ms. Burt did a beautiful job I want to say one committee meeting ago on like the healthy food certification, and we had some conversations there that we do need to follow up on. So I think we can bring both together. Thank you, Ms. Escribano.
Thank you. I'll be sure to follow up with you in terms of all of that, and we'll formalize stuff and get things working. Heaven and Tramel, this was a phenomenal presentation. Shout outs to your teachers and everyone supporting you, and to Ms. Burt and everyone here. You guys are heard, and we'll be working on it. And you guys stay in touch, okay? And good luck with the rest of your school year. A week left, right? Less than a week?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And could you please distribute the PowerPoint that was sent earlier with all of
Yes.
the details behind it? Thank you.
Absolutely. You guys have a great evening, okay? And summer's right around the corner.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. All right, we're gonna move on to our Family and Caregiver Academy update. Miss Chief Blackburn, I don't see, where is she?
Oh,
There you
I'm
are.
here.
There you are. Sorry, my screen froze.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, so Christina, maybe I thought that was going to be a part of the reports for the committee to review, but what I'll do, I
Do
will.
you just want to just do a quick synopsis and
Sure
and that's
thing.
totally fine.
So I will defer to my amazing team members, Ms. Sinkowitz and Ms. Mauricia and Ms. Alvarado had to drop from the call because we actually have a family session tonight on all things special education. So she had to drop to join our Director of Student Support Services there. So Michelle, Mauricia, you want to just go through like the high level pieces or?
Sure, no problem. I apologize. I'm driving because I didn't know I would be presenting, so I can't be off camera, but I am here and more than happy to talk about it. So you can go ahead and you can skip forward a couple of slides just because these are repeats of some of the ones. See, that's perfect. You can stop right there. So as you know, the last time that we kind of reported with you all, we were facing some challenges with engagement and the number of people. We weren't really happy with the number of people that we had talked to, but I'm really excited to come back with this slide because we've been working really hard as a team. We listened to, what we heard in this committee, we brainstormed, we got creative, we really thought about our families, and we were able to actually surpass our goals for both the survey and the focus groups. I know that many board members took the time to meet with TNTP to do one-on-ones, and that was like super valuable. So we're really appreciative of that. But we actually had 3,661 responses to the survey, and a shout out to the data team who, with one of our creative ideas, we said, hey, could we add our survey questions to the survey that goes out to the whole district? Because we know that there's a much higher response rate there and we'll reach the most number of families. And so we partnered with them to put those questions there. And for the focus groups, we actually got up to about 200, and that was through doing like community dinners at some of our schools where we offered a space for families to just come, network, get to know each other, build relationships, share a meal, and then we asked some questions and had, poster paper for some of the questions that they could write on. And they were just like very beautiful, awesome experiences. And through that, we were able to really gather a lot of voice and actually surpass the goals we had set at the beginning, which was not looking possible before. So we are just excited because through that also, you can go to the next slide. We have quite a few, this is just some data. I'll let you all look through that, but what they did for us is actually break down the data into different categories and demographics, just because we knew that would probably be of interest to us, because we want to make sure we have really equitable representation in the data. Like one thing that we saw at first was we had predominantly magnet school data from families, and we really wanted to make sure that we had equal or more representation from neighborhood families and Hartford residents. So that became like the big focus for us. So we, if you go to the next slide, this shows what folks were looking for. So we have a few slides with the data. About 60% of respondents wanted child-focused workshops through this academy, and then 37% personal development, like leadership development and working on themselves, and then 32% professional development. So those were the highest rated areas of interest. You can go to the next. We also, as you can see, gave a lot of options in terms of how they could access the academy, and the majority wanted virtual or online, or a hybrid of virtual or in-person. In our in-person dinners, we did hear a lot more folks want to do more things in person, but that sort of makes sense given those were folks who were comfortable coming in person to a dinner. But when you looked at the data overall, hybrid and virtual/online were the top. Next, please. There's also 75% of families and parents who want to collaborate. So that was really exciting. And we heard that as a big theme. They want to network together. They want to share best practices together. They want to learn from each other. They want to help each other with childcare. So that's like a huge benefit that they're hoping to get from this academy. And also they want to contribute. So we have a lot of families and parents who expressed interest in wanting to be on the design team, which we're super excited about, and also like wanting to lead workshops as a part of this academy. So next, please. That's just a breakdown of the, again, some more of the demographics of respondents. Next, please. Similar, and these you can go through and, you know, if you have any questions moving forward, we'll be happy to answer. We also broke it down by school, and TNTP is also giving us a much more full and robust data report, which will be done in a few weeks. And they're also going to look at it by zone, which brings us to our next step. So there's going to be a final can you go back? Stakeholder report coming out. We're going to begin recruitment for design committee members. So that's family members, community members, board members, district members who really are passionate and want to be involved in the design of this based on all the feedback and based on the voice we collected. We'll be hosting sessions in July and August. And then really after that, coming up with that pilot implementation by the end of August to be ready for the fall. That's where we are, phase 2.
Great, thank you, Michelle. I'll open up very quickly if there are any questions. If not, I will, getting close to the end, I will move on to our family engagement policy.
Thanks.
This is Tyrone Walker. You can move on if you like.
Do you have a question?
No, I was saying you can move forward if from my perspective. I don't have a question.
Okay.
All right. I apologize, Michelle. I didn't realize it was a part of, like it was a presentation. I thought it was a part of the report, so I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I apologize.
Oh my gosh, no, it's okay. I just feel so bad. I had to go pick up my dogs from daycare before it closed. See, they're like right here.
Oh my goodness.
And so I was literally at home most of the meeting, but you caught me just right now. But I hope that was still clear and helpful. I'm really passionate about it, so I'm glad I could speak to it. And sorry that I was off camera.
No, you're totally good, Michelle, and I appreciate that. So we'll move on to the family engagement policy. Chief Blackburn.
Thank you, Ms. Escribano. And so I know we've had a packed agenda. Dr. Silver couldn't be with us tonight, so I told her that I would go through this. I think many of you have seen parts of this presentation, as this was also shared in a policy committee. You can go forward, Christina. And so the agenda is here, and this is what we had presented. We had a meeting with families to look at the policy last Thursday, June 2nd. So this is what we laid out to the families, and that session was actually facilitated by Dr. Silver and Mr. Martinez, Ms. Sinkowitz, and they had an opportunity to meet with families to go through the policy and for them to provide feedback. And so, Ms. Santiago, I believe that I did send you the actual document. So the CABE model policy was presented to the policy committee, and we also left on this particular deck the note catcher that our families had the opportunity to go through and to offer commentary and comments. And so if you actually open and click on that link whenever you have a moment to do so, you would be able to see the actual comments from families, from the people that attended the workshop, and their suggestions and thoughts for the family, for the policy, the family engagement policy. So that also is a live link that takes you to that. And so wanted to bring it to this committee. I'm not sure if everyone is on the policy committee, but if there were any questions, suggestions, thoughts as it relates to that particular policy, but wanted to ensure that this committee actually had eyes into it. But those are actually live links. I'm trying to go fast, Ms. Escribano. Those are actually live links.
No, you're good.
That, that you'll be able to see in real time what our families had to say about the policy. All right, I think I did that like in 3 minutes.
You did. That's awesome. Thank you, Chief Blackburn. I'm going to open it up to my board members to see if they have any feedback, questions, or any of that before we close out for the evening. Mr. Walker, Ms. Brody, Mr. Rigor. I was part of the policy committee, so I don't have any questions. I saw that.
Yeah, I was also on the policy committee, so there's no need to repeat. I just want to hear feedback from the folks from the family and communicating community committee.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Ms. Brody, Mr. Rigor, any questions or feedback?
I'm all set.
Thank you. Ms. Brody, are you all set? Awesome, thank you. All right, so as we sent in the email, if our last thing is reports, I had requested everyone to read it in advance, and if we weren't going to go over them, but if there were any questions or concerns, this is their opportunity to put them out there. If not, you can email them to myself or to Christina. If there are no questions at this moment, then I will conclude this meeting. I don't see any questions. All right, so I'm calling this meeting to an end. It's 6 o'clock. I almost got us there on time. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us, and shout out to the 2 students and Violette and Ms. Burr as well. It's great to have students here and do presentations. And Nishad, I will connect with you after so we can meet and talk about a couple of stuff. But yeah, everyone's free to go and enjoy your evening. Have a great one. Christina, thank you.